Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening, or afternoon, or morning, or whenever you're listening to this. Welcome to the 33rd of hopefully many episodes of Bardadvice, a D&D slash TTRPG slash life advice podcast wherein I, Chaz, Charles, Yazik, the DM, the Bard, however you may know me, do my best to answer said questions. I hope that everybody's doing well this evening. You've made it to the end of the week, whether you're listening to this right now as we speak on Friday evening, or you're listening to this on Saturday, or maybe even Monday or Tuesday. Whenever you're listening to it, I hope you're doing well, and I thank you for joining us. At the top of the hour, we would like to remind everyone of the email for this podcast, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. So please send all of your questions, concerns, complaints, compliments, etc. to bardadvice@gmail.com. I appreciate the multi-questions, and if you're somebody that's been listening for a while and you've never sent a question, send a question, even if you think it's silly. Because remember, as we discussed last week, no silly questions, only silly people and geese. You can get merchandise at manshorts.com. And if you want to support anything that I am doing musically, you can do so by contributing directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo at Yazik, Y-A-H-Z-I-C-K. I have something prepared in that realm to share with everyone a little later. Before we get further into things, I would like to, of course, thank all of our patrons, super chatters, donors, all of our subscribers, commenters, viewers. Please rate on your respective platforms. Please like this video if you could. It's good for the algorithm. And share it with your friends. Thank you for all of that. Also, this episode today is sponsored by World Anvil. If anyone who doesn't know, World Anvil is an online set of world-building tools that game masters and writers can use to create and cross-reference their worlds. It's got organizational trees, bloodlines, random generators, an RPG game manager, historical timelines, interactive maps, world-building prompts. You can link all of that stuff with wiki-like articles, and the organizational capability is so advanced that it doubles as a novel-writing software. This is a really cool sponsor of ours. They've been a sponsor of ours for a number of years. It's a really cool, as far as I know, it's a husband and wife team. It's a small team. Really cool stuff. And I find myself on there all the time using it to create stuff, write articles, link things. It's helpful when I'm building stuff out. So if you're a writer or a game master or of any kind of major TTRPG system, because they do cover a lot of stuff, you need to check out World Anvil. You can go to worldanvil.com/manshorts, or you can just go to worldanvil.com and then use the promo code manshorts, but that gets you 40% off any of the annual memberships for World Anvil. So that's just a reminder on that. And thank you to World Anvil for the sponsorship. Now, let's move forward into Art Corner. At the beginning of the episode, I'd like to discuss this just because I've been hearing about it and I haven't gotten it yet, although I've seen it, so let's just talk about it. Baldur's Gate 3. This is this new game that's come out, and I'm hearing lots of good things about it. I was supposed to write down the description, but I didn't do that. So, sorry about all this. I don't know why this is problematic, but the things that I've seen most about it that are good is, as you can tell, there's lots of customization capabilities. And one of the other things that I have heard from them about just out and about and around the internet that's so good about it is that there doesn't seem to be any kind of microtransactions shop, although I don't know if that's going to come in the future. You know, one of the things that I noted, and I didn't save it, but when I pulled it up on Steam, and the first thing I saw was DLC. So I don't know how true the whole like, oh man, it's like an old game is. But I also haven't played it yet. So I intend to do it. I would recommend everybody check it out. Whether you decide to download it and play it or not, it's totally your call. But I think that if you're somebody that likes D&D, this game is going to be probably closest to something that you're going to enjoy. That's just like my opinion, though. So, Baldur's Gate 3. Check it out. Is it just on PC right now? Or PlayStation? It's party based. Like I don't know if it's. I think that it's solo. I should have looked more. It does say online co-op, so man. And you only need 4 gigs of 4 gigs of RAM or 4 gigs of space. That's good to know. Divinity Original Sin. Yeah, I tried to play that game. I couldn't get into it. There weren't any microtransactions in there either. I do think that game studios are going to need to start doing that. They're going to need to start putting out fuller, better games that you don't have to pay extra stuff for. Been following D&D X Edition for a while and more recently discovered your music. Oh, well, thank you, Robert. Glad that you enjoy it. So far, PlayStation in September. Oh, okay, so far it's only on PC, and then PlayStation in September, Xbox once they can get the split screen co-op to work correctly. Yeah, good luck with that. The book Baldur's Gate was what got me into reading D&D books. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think we're gonna. I was talking to Justin about it. I'd like to play it. Maybe we could stream it on here or something. That'd be fun. Okay, so as for questions, we have this evening 6 of them, and then a bit of a not necessarily a follow-up, but just kind of a some words, a piece of advice from someone in the audience, for someone in the audience. So we'll play the middleman role on that one, but let's get into it. The first question this week, according to my list of names, is from Harry. And Harry asks, "Hello, new player here. I grew up playing Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, but I picked up a 5e one-shot a few years ago and have been playing D&D ever since. What seems to be an age-old debate is whether or not a nat 20 means an auto-success for skill checks. What do you think? Should a nat 20 be a success no matter how crazy the check DC? I appreciate any feedback." So, I think we've talked about this before, but I don't remember. So I wanted to talk about it because I think that this is an important conversation in Rule of Cool. But let me see what the chat says. What does chat say first? Let's get a feel on the room. Because one of the first things I see is yes. If a 20 isn't a success, the DM shouldn't let you roll. If there's no other chance of success, you don't let them roll. Other than that, a 20 is a win. At my table, a nat 20 is a hit or success. I don't know what raw is, honestly, and I don't care enough, especially with 5e. But I will say, rolling a nat 20 is a pretty cool thing to happen. As far as I know, it only comes into play during combat. At least the concept of a critical. In such that, because the thing too is that the bigger thing, at least, and maybe it's different in 5e, but for me, from what I remember, the bigger thing with 20 was the extra damage. I was more pleased with, obviously you hit, but I was way more pleased with doing the extra damage. In fact, Rigsby, the guy that plays Waylon on the channel, I remember specifically a character that he had, and he built it to extend his crit range. And it got to a point once we were getting up towards epic level where I think that his crit range was like, I think at one point it was like 14 to 20. I'm pretty sure. And so he was also doing like ×3 or maybe even ×4 damage. So it was just ridiculous. It was just so much DPR, especially if he caught you with sneak attack. Because that character was, I think he was like a shadow jumper or something. So he was, I forget what the name of the class was, but anyway, what were we talking about? Nat 20s on skill checks. So, yes, this is a good conversation when it comes to raw versus rule of cool versus just like context. So, I agree with the concept of not allowing them to roll if there's no way they can do it. And there is the argument that if it was a DC, yeah, I don't know. I'd say so. That seemed to be a house rule that I remember back when we played 3.5. I think I remember our DM Posey had it where nat 20s essentially just added 10 to your roll, like no matter what it was. And so to that end, a nat 20 was an auto success, I guess, if it was a skill check. I've not rolled a lot of nat 20s. I've been playing D&D for almost 20 years. I maybe have rolled maybe 10 in actual play. Probably less than that. That's an interesting thought exercise. How many nat 20s do you think you've rolled? Bardadvice to keep me company on the ride home. Oh, cool. Well, thank you for joining, Matthew. Just wanted to suggest a YouTube channel that covers discussions and debates on theological nature. I'm going to jump into the Grand Canyon nat 20. Someone stops you from leaping to your death. Yeah, I think that a 20 it's a win, no matter how you slice it. And the only time I've let people roll when they can't succeed is when I don't realize they can't succeed. So I recently had a player. Yeah, obviously you can't know for sure what's going to happen one way or the other. And in a perfect world, yes, you would know that they weren't able to succeed, so you wouldn't let them roll, but stuff happens. At the end of the day, if you're at my table and you're trying to do something and you roll a 20, you succeed at that thing. And also, depending on the context, you succeeded it very well, because context matters, right? Like if you were doing an athletics check to impress a person because you were doing a headstand or like or a somersault or something, and then you rolled a nat 20 on that. For me as the DM, not only did you succeed, but you did some like Avatar Airbender stuff and have like drawn a crowd. So, 5%. Chris says around 5% of his rolls on average. Yeah, I was thinking that actually. You got a 5% chance, so. Imagine rolling 20 and being like, sorry, no, I'd be done with that DM. Yeah, that would be really, that would, as someone who's not experienced that would be rough. So, yeah, I'd have to say, for me, 20's a win. Can the DM adjudicate the result? Are we not referees? Yes, that's true too. Obviously, context is important. Depends on what we're talking about. But I think that overall, if you roll a 20, that's a win. And the idea of being a critical success is all relative. So, as far as raw goes, as far as I understand it, the double damage and stuff would only apply in combat. The idea of a critical hit would apply only in combat. Think if the skill check requires like a 25 and you have a +4 and roll a 20, cool. If you have a +0 or a -1, no. True, yeah, and stats matter too, the context of the stats. Like, I think that's fair too, I agree. Like, if it was impossible for you to... If the skill check is, you roll a 25 and you have a +4 and you roll a 20. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Some people would argue that you shouldn't even let them roll, but... Skip turns around when the player rolls a crazy high stealth roll for something like 35+ and the NPC nat 20s and sees them. True. That's true. But, you know, again, as the final adjudicator, as the final judge, as the god of the world, as the DM, more than one time I've just been like, no. And it's like, well, what are you going to say? What are you going to not play? Because that's what it is. This is what's going on. So in that particular instance, if somebody was like, oh, well, yeah, I rolled an @20, so I should be able to see it, it'd be like, well, no. Sorry about it. Context matters. So thank you for the question, Harry. Let's keep moving because we're already burning through time. I didn't even realize. And we've got some more questions today. So moving on to the next one, which is from Davis. Davis asks, after Barbie's success, it looks like Mattel intends on creating a cinematic universe of their own, including an Uno movie. I don't even know how you do that. As someone who frequently reflects fondly on 3.5, oh, that's me, how much of a role do you think nostalgia plays in both TTRPG gaming and the world of film and television? No compliments or criticisms. Keep up the great work. Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate the question, Davis. I have not seen Barbie yet, and I've also not seen Oppenheimer. I intend to see both, just haven't gotten around to it. Maybe next week. Anyway, nostalgia. I think nostalgia is a pretty powerful tool. Some of the things that I'm seeing in chat means everything, factors in a lot. I've heard that being that Oppenheimer's good. I've heard good things about it. Cillian Murphy, that guy's a powerhouse actor. So, and I'm the rest of the cast, and then Barbie, of course. I personally, if I'm honest, I'm excited to see Barbie for the color palette. Obviously, I'm interested in the plot, and I've heard that it's a really great script. But I want to see all the colors. I want to see what they did with the color palette because I really like that kind of color palette. Anyway, nostalgia is a huge thing. As we can see, we're currently discussing one of the hottest movies in theaters right now, Barbie. They're almost to $1 billion in the box, and it's certainly, I think, capitalizing primarily on nostalgia more than anything else. I think that. Wait, let me actually see my notes that I wrote down. Nostalgia is one of the most powerful tools you have at your disposal for storytelling in film, television, and gaming because it puts the consumer in a state of mind that likely aligns with the themes and message you're trying to get across. Or it should if you're using it correctly. So, and people capitalize on nostalgia pretty consistently. At the top of this episode, we talked about Baldur's Gate 3. It's the third iteration of that story. And then you see it all over the place with reboots and remakes and stuff, continuations of stuff. They're up to like Fast 15 or whatever it is. Indiana Jones Part 6. I can't keep up with all that stuff, but it sells tickets. It makes money. Because I think with film in particular, there's people that are going to be going to see movies anyway. Like that dude that was he got the front row seat at the IMAX for Oppenheimer, and then IMAX gave him like this cool print or whatever. But when they met the guy, he was just very chill, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just a movie fan. This is just what I do. I do this for every movie." So there are people that just do that and are just going to go see stuff. When it comes to trying to make a bunch of money at the box office, the more that you can hook on to nostalgia, the better. The more that you can elicit that response of, because I think that for most of us, I think nostalgia is connected to the vulnerability and freedom of childhood, or the idea at least of a simpler time. Probably not contextually, probably not under real analysis, but fondly we think. Like it's like the Member Berries episode of South Park. Fondly we think back on those times. And the nostalgia, yeah, I think it's way powerful. I think it's almost required these days because you've seen it. Like these next big powerhouse franchises that we're going to see, because I mean Marvel, they'll just keep going until they're just not making money anymore. They'll just keep making movies at Marvel. But I think for the next decade or so, we're going to see Nintendo, and we're going to see clearly Mattel has plans. I don't know how you make an Uno movie, but good luck, I guess. I guess I don't know. And then Nintendo, they're going to make all of their stuff. I'm excited about that. I'll go see those. I'm thinking about getting Peacock just to watch the Mario movie because I've not seen it yet. Let's see what's going on. From what I've read, the Barbie movie started on nostalgia, but it picked up a lot by reviews. Why come up with new ideas when you can just crank out reboots, remakes, sequels of existing IP? Yes, I agree with that for sure to an extent. I do feel like, what are there, 7 stories, they say? They say. It's been said. There's only a handful of actual stories or plot lines that can be told. And anything else is just kind of a reiteration of that, of putting it on its head. I will say that certainly over the past few decades, Hollywood, and I hate saying that because it's just like, what does that mean? What is that? What is that code for, like, the rich people that produced the films? I don't know. Anyway, it has kind of leaned on the idea of the reboot, and you could kind of say that, not to discredit anything about what Nolan's done with Oppenheimer, because I've heard excellent things and I'm sure that it's great. But that film kind of capitalizes on nostalgia, at least conceptually, right? Like, even though most of us weren't alive during or have vivid memories of how any of that stuff went down, we kind of have a memory of what it was and what it means. And so there's kind of already nostalgia baked into that too, just in the sense of like, well, hey, this is part of this country's story, I guess. I don't know. And really just maybe a good snapshot and analysis of humanity and what it means to be in those types of positions and have to make those kind of decisions. I don't know. Please, Zelda movie, for goodness sake. Yes, most definitely. I'd be really hyped for that. The rich people rebooting is yucky, for sure. Okay, well, that's I think, a good answer for that. I think it's a huge thing, and the more that you can utilize it to your benefit as a creator, the better. So, Soul Eater and Fire Force coincide. I did not know that they coincide. I knew that they were created by the same creator, but I did not know that they coincide. Is that coming back, by the way, Fire Force? Is there more of that? Soul Eater is good. Oh yeah, and Pee Wee Herman. Rest in peace to Paul Rubens. That was sad. He just kind of. And I remember when that stuff happened with him, whatever, with the adult movie theater or whatever. It seemed so insane at the time. I remember he just got, and that was like, people really drug him. But when you think about it in comparison to everything else that's gone on in the last 10 years or so, it's not that insane, It's not like there was really anybody else involved. And also, what did you expect to be going on in there? Anyway, let's no more talk about Pee-wee. Let's keep moving on. We've got another question here. This next one is from Ruby. And Ruby asks, "Hi Chaz, so you and your videos with your friends have been my escape from reality of cancer and health issues from cancer treatments. Ron, my husband of 30 years, for whom I've known for almost 40 years, used to play D&D a lot. He has numeric dyslexia, which made scanning all the charts very difficult for him. I can imagine. We started with your Man Shorts videos and are now watching the campaigns, currently on the first one still. So I have a 3-part question for you. Which version of D&D do you prefer to play and why?" I think everybody here knows that. "Which version would be the best to start with? Finally, what app are you using in the campaign for stats? Justin seems to be using paper, but the rest of you are using your phones. Thank you so much." Well, thank you so much for the question, Ruby. And you and I had a brief email exchange over the last day or so. You're a delight. I really appreciate the question. I'm sorry to hear, obviously, about your health issues. Wish you the best. Cancer sucks. I have direct experience with that, so I'm very sorry to hear that all of that's going on, but it is good to know that what we've made and the stuff that we're doing on the channel brings you joy. Now, let's go through your questions point by point. My favorite edition of the game to play is 3.5. The reason that, third, 3.5 edition, which was the re-release of third edition. So I think third edition came out in 2000, and I want to say that 3.5 came out in 2003, and it just improved upon the issues with 3. Now Pathfinder further improved upon that, and I've heard that Pathfinder 2's improved upon that even further. So in my estimation, in terms of, from what I know in my experience and from what I know with chat, people really, really like 3.5 and Pathfinder. And I think that 3.5 is the best edition, although it is quite a lot if you're just getting into it, or it's been a while and you're kind of knocking off the rust to play the game, just because with 3.5 you can do a lot, but that can also be a little intimidating because there's like 100 books. Whereas with 5e, and I've said before, I think that what 5e did is that they figured out, probably based on a lot of stuff that was posted online on homebrew forums and stuff, what people really liked, how they wanted to play the classes. And I think that they, hopefully, I imagine, learned from whatever blunders there was with the release of and building of 4th edition. With 5e, they kind of streamlined all of that stuff. So I've always said that, the type of, you could get a 5th level fighter in 5e, it would take you 10 levels and 4 books to get in 3.5. You could do it, it just would take a lot of building, multi-classing, etc., meeting prerequisites, yada, yada, yada. 5e kind of streamlines all of that. So I think that if you're starting for the first time, we don't talk about 4e for sure. I think if you're starting for the first time, I would recommend 5e, and I would recommend a one-shot. Because one-shots, the great thing about one-shots, and I think we talked about this last week, or maybe the week before, at some point, the great thing about one-shots is that there's a lot less pressure in terms of what happens to your character. If you're doing a campaign, even if it's, like a 5 or 6 session campaign, or if it's one you intend to continue on, there's a lot more pressure involved in what is going on with and what happens to your character. And so as a result, that can be something to think about that might prevent you from really getting a chance to lean into and roleplay and love the character. Whereas with a one-shot, it doesn't really matter what happens to the character, so you just go in and kind of lean into it and have fun with it. Now, another thing that I wanted to bring up, and hi, I see that you're in here too, Ron. Well, hello. Thank you for being here and joining and listening. I don't know if either of you have heard of Munchkin, but Munchkin is a game that you really, really might like, because I think that you only need 2 people to play it. I think you could even play it alone. But Munchkin is a card game, and it has a lot of the same elements from D&D and just other kind of fantasy themes. Things you mentioned, you're on the nerd wavelength. It's check out Munchkin, because I think you can play a game in like 20 or 30 minutes. There's a bunch of expansion packs for it, but you can get the base game, and it's real fun. And Melissa, the girl that played the woman that plays Sarah, Justin's fiance, Melissa, who plays Sarah on the channel, loves Munchkin and is really, really good at it. And I never really got into it myself, but it occurs to me that you and your husband might really love that, because y'all could just play that together, and then if you wanted to, like, get expansions and play with friends as well. So, but I would say 5e, one shot, and or Munchkin. That's where I would start. And as for the app, I honestly don't remember what it was. I think that it was just called 5e Character Sheet. But what I tend to do is Google a lot of stuff. And so what I think the way that I found them, and I'll just do it right now and see if I can find the one that I used, is I just go into my Google App Store, or I guess it's like the Apple Marketplace or whatever it's called if you have an Apple phone. And I just look for, I think I just looked for 5e Character Sheet. And yeah, it's called 5th edition Character Sheet. It's got 1 million downloads. But yeah, that one was the easiest for me, especially as someone who was a new player, because that We Play, if that's the one you're still watching, the We Play D&D is, that was the first time I played 5e. So I do not know. I do not know when, Ruby, but hopefully soon. Also, there's a 3.0 Munchkin OGL book trio. Wow. Why am I not playing Baldur's Gate 3? I just haven't gotten it yet. I intend to. I'm going to check it out for sure. Especially now after seeing like all the customization capability. I'm in. Probably not this weekend, but at some point I'll pick it up next week and start playing. And I might even start streaming. Whether I do that here or maybe somewhere else, I don't know. I'll talk to Justin about it and figure it out. But maybe we'll bring back Flim Flam for Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, good. It was good. Very good. Finished last night with popcorn. Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, and then the other one is the Airships of Nuada, and that one is finished. And then there's the Star Wars campaign, but we never finished it. Maybe we'll come back to that. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you so much for the question, Ruby. I wish you and Ron the best with everything. I'm sure that some days are easier than others, but I'm just happy that we can be there to provide fun content for you. However that looks like, whether it's the sketches or the We Plays or... Yeah, no problem, Ron. Yeah, definitely check out Munchkin. I think you'll really like that one. I almost feel like you should check out Munchkin before you try 5e. Just because I feel like it's so much easier and it gets you there faster. It's very much what you like and what you're used to with TTRPGs. It's just kind of like faster and more efficient. You know, you'd think I'd like Munchkin more than I do, but I don't know. Anyway... Let's keep moving on. Thank you for the question, Ruby. The next question we have this evening, if you can guess, is from Chris. And Chris asks, what is your favorite song / video / short you've made? I wish that it was easy enough to just give a single answer to. How about this? Let's see in chat what everybody else's favorite edition is. How about I'll put a spin on it and ask chat that same question. What are your favorite videos / songs / sketches we've made? Also, a bunch gives you the basic of D&D, old school Dungeons Lair, song, Big Bad, Football Baby. Football Baby was really fun to make. I feel like most people are going to say Florida. Florida's a pretty popular one. And I got to say, they are fun to shoot. Actually, Florida's probably the most fun to write. And not just because it's the easiest, but also because I kind of get to... I like to be able to curate who gets what. Obviously, Melissa's kind of limited because I try to make her Florida woman stories. And so it's like, well, if it's a Florida woman story, it's going to be her. But I still do kind of pick and choose who gets what. So those are really fun. In my notes, I put down Rap Edition is up there. 90s Part 5 is personally my favorite episode. I think it's one of the best that we ever did. I think it's one of the best cuts I've ever done. Supervillains on there, superhero, western, anime, I guess, is on there. And then the song stuff is... I just put Jack of All Trades and Existential Avalanche. Those are probably my favorites. And then Follow, which is a really old song that I'm going to be remaking. And I may or may not put it on the album. I haven't decided. I don't know. But it might be on its own album. I've got to get one of them out. I've got to get one album out first. So let's just see how that goes. And I really like, over the years, and it's kind of separate from the channel, but I've enjoyed making the 48 movies, which is weird to say because I don't do too much in terms of the actual production of them. But I guess I just enjoy the process of the 48. I'm not sure if anybody here knows, or if I've spoken about it on the pod before, but the 48-hour film festival, they do it every year. It's kind of what it sounds like. You have 48 hours to make a movie. You're given your prompt on Friday night. There is a character name, a prop, and a line of dialogue that all must be used within it. Those are essentially your parameters. You randomly select your genre, and then you make the thing. We've won Best Film at the 48 at least 3 times. And I've won Best Writing once. And then this last year, we won, the grand champion of America or whatever for the 48. And so then the film went and screened at Cannes and at the Cannes Film Festival. So that was pretty neato. I really like doing those just because it's a fun exercise because you don't know what you're getting. And then it's, you have pretty much, my process in the 48 hours is pretty much 10 hours because whenever we get the prompt, however long it takes to write the script, essentially, and then I'm just kind of done and I just hand it off. I'm like, okay, go make it. Your early acoustic music is so hard on the sleeve. Maybe redo some of it with full instrumentation. You're reading my mind, Ron. I'm already kind of thinking down that path. I've got a buddy. Matter of fact, the guy that I made Football Baby with is, we've started kind of tinkering around with what those songs look like as full instrumentation, what they sound like, and if maybe we might be able to just get some backing tracks for the music of them put together, and then I can just do the vocals on them, and then boom, we've got another album. But like I said, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I've got one album I've got to get out first. I've got to get one out before I can get the next one out. Songs were never fun. Whatever happened to the videos? Whatever happened to the people that were in the older videos? Love the Vegas, Alaska train campaign. Rad Mind of Yazek. Oh, wow, that's a deep cut. Yeah, that was when I first got into Hobson and made that. That was a fun one. Okay. Let's keep moving. Did we answer that question? My favorite video? Yeah, I think we did. I think we did a pretty good job of answering that one. Oh, and also, Chris, just while I have you here, if you're here, you can listen to it later if you're not, I guess. I got the other email too about the Awesome Locker or whatever it's called. I forget what it's called, but I want to talk about that. So we're going to do that next week. I just wanted you to know that I got it and I think that it's cool and I want to share it. I think you've sent it before and I just never got around to sharing it. So we're going to do that. All right. So we've got 2 more questions. Then we've got a little bit of advice from the audience for the audience. And then I've got a little cool surprise kind of thing deal. And then we'll do some chat. So Chris is here, and Chris, and Chris, and Chris. And oh yeah, Chris is here too. Yeah. I guess that's too vague of a thing to say if Chris is here. Anyway, let's move on. This one is from... I know who it is. It's from Jason. And Jason asks, as a DM, sometimes you find the love you have for a campaign starts to fade, and it becomes a chore to prep and continue. What techniques do you implement to reinvigorate that motivation? I personally find it occurs when the PCs step up to the higher tier levels and encounters start to get larger and more complicated to account for this. So more time is spent on encounter prep than story prep. Yes, so I hear you. Thank you for the question, Jason. I don't know why I can't remember Jason. Maybe it's because you spell it differently than the standard, than the regular, which is cool. I feel like all of my friends spell their names the way they're not supposed to. Justin spells with an E, and then my other friend Jestin is Jestin. Then we get this email from Jason, and it's Jaison. I can't keep up with all of the different letters. So I've got notes for this, but let's see what chat's saying first. Best of vids. Oh, yes, those were really, really fun to do. I really enjoyed those. Encounter. Yes, you encounter prep the players. You encounter prep. The players create the story as we go. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from when it gets kind of mundane and you're spending more time getting the thing actually ready than putting love into it. Sometimes that happens to me with all of my projects, not just with D&D stuff. It's happened with this podcast before, where it's like there have been episodes where it's like, I didn't prep well enough, and so as a result, it wasn't as good as it could have been. So it does kind of get frustrating when that prep becomes mundane. So what I wrote down was first to take a break. That's my go-to recommendation for anybody that's having any kind of block, whether it's getting boring or monotonous or you can't think of anything. Stepping away is number one. Go for a walk. Go play Baldur's Gate 3 or something. The further, honestly, you can remove your brain from whatever the thing is, the better, because it just kind of frees you up to not worry about it, and then that's probably when you'll come up with cool ideas. Stepping away is number one. I also put, because you might consider taking a week or two off to reset. I also put set small attainable goals and create rewards for yourself. So that could be something that you could do if you don't want to take a break and you want to just implement something immediately that might help. You can kind of come up with little goals for yourself or rewards for yourself that might incentivize you or motivate you. And I also put just talk to the players. And I can see in chat, like, ask the players, what do you want to do? Definitely talk to them, because it's a piece of advice that it's a thing I say a lot on here, but I also think that it's a really great piece of advice for any kind of relationship, communication. We all communicate differently, meaning that we all communicate differently outward, and we also all receive information differently. And so that can be a tightrope line to walk if you've ever been married, if you've ever had any kind of like meaningful long-term friendship or relationship with someone. Nobody's perfect, and a lot of issues could be avoided with better communication. And so really all you can do is just try your best. All of that's to say, come all the way back around to bring it up to the players. If you mention it to them, then I think you might be surprised at their level of support as well as their recommendations. Maybe you bring this up at the table and one of the players goes, well, I've had this idea for a campaign that I've been dying to DM. What if we just do that for a while? And now you're playing in another cool campaign, and you don't have to stress about prep at all other than just like enjoying your character. And the other person's happy because they get to be a DM. It's all just to say, like, bringing it up, just mentioning it will open a door to a whole myriad of other options in general. Make the encounters and let the players decide what to do. Sometimes they'll steamroll and feel good. Other times the encounter will end up being more challenging than you expected. Both are good, in my opinion. I'm applying this to life issues for when one is just stressed out. Yeah, most definitely. just step away from it for a little while. And then also, like, just do one thing at a time. I used to work with this lady. She was so sweet. This Miss Valerie. She was so nice. If you're out there, Miss Valerie, I hope you're doing great. She's this awesome lady. But I worked at an office, and there was a day where I was like super stressed out and just like really having a tough time. And I had all this stuff to do, way too much stuff to do. And I was just kind of freaked out and panicked about it. And she came over and she was just so sweet. And she was just like, you just don't worry about all of that. You just worry about one thing at the time. Don't worry about that stack of papers. You just do one paper at the time. And it's simple, but it's true. And I try to do that. I don't always succeed, but I try to live life that way, where it's just like you can really only deal with one thing at a time anyway. So why are you even stressing? Why are you even tripping about plates you can't possibly spin yet when you've got these that you're worried about? So, and that kind of falls in line with this, with the whole concept of like, how are you going to enjoy the game if you're feeling a certain type of way about it? I'd say just breach it with the players, and then maybe take a step, maybe take a break. Maybe take a step away. Just get a little mental palate cleanser for yourself. Play some Baldur's Gate 3 or go to the mall. I don't know. Do people go to the mall in 2023? They do in Orange Park. Yeehaw. All right. So, in the immortal words of Dory, just keep swimming. Yes, for sure. Keep your head up, as Tupac said. And just keep moving. All right, so we got one more question before we get into chat/reveal time. And this one's cool because it's not completely D&D related, but I'll be interested to see what people think about this. So I hope that answered your question, Jason. I hope that any of those pieces of advice are helpful for you. This last question is from Joy. And Joy asks, you mentioned aliens last week. Have you ever had any experiences or encounters with UFOs, UAPs, or non-human biologics? Follow-up question, do you think there are other humans or human-like people in the universe? Thanks for all the content. Thank you for the question, Joy. The non-human biologics. Let's try again. The non-human biologics thing is hilarious because that's, by the way, if anybody didn't see the stuff with the congressional hearing about the UFOs, or excuse me, the UAPs, that's what was said. They were blatantly, they were asked outright, do we have alien bodies? And the dude was like, listen, I don't know about all of that, but what I will definitely say is that there were non-human biologics. It's like, okay, that's fine. That's their status quo. We'll see how that stands and what that is moving forward. I personally have not had any real experiences with UFOs, UAPs, aliens, as it were. However, I think that statistically speaking, we would be foolish to think that we're the only life in the universe, especially that we're the only life in the universe like us, just statistically. And then, when you consider just some questions throughout history about like how things got where and how things were done, and personally, I think that aliens, as we know them, these otherworldly beings, I think that it's way more likely that it's just us, like from the future, or just like a different version of us, like another dimensional version. Because I'll tell you, in my experience, I don't think that anybody knows what's going on for sure. So it's kind of open to whatever. Could be, I don't know. I'd say that there are a lot of things that I have questions about that would be explained by aliens conceptually. It would be explained by their visits of technology. Speaking of which, did anybody see this thing about these room ambient these room temperature ambient pressure superconductor that they've made. This LK99. Man, I really don't know anything about science. So I've heard different things about it, but essentially, if this were true, if the superconductor existed, then we would be able to, power entire cities with like one line, right? How does that work? Considering how adverse to life the universe is, I believe humans are the only intelligent life in this region of space, but the universe is huge, so I wouldn't be surprised. Talked about what? Oh, Baldur's Gate 3 has consumed your soul. I wondered if you were playing that, River. If there's other intelligent life, it's terrifying. There's no other life but us. It's terrifying. That's true, too. And my wife and I talk about that frequently when it comes to stuff like simulation theory. You know, you could talk to your blue in the face about, like, whether this is intelligent design, whether this is divine design, whether this is just completely random, whether it's a simulation, whether we're like, whether we're a science experiment by aliens. Does it really matter? If it doesn't affect what your experience is or how you experience it, does it really make a difference what it is? And so I think that when it comes to the question of aliens, then it's, does it matter? I think that they exist. Whether or not they're among us or not, I don't know. I think I think that we've got enough problems with just regular people before we start talking about like aliens. We got to figure out humans first, and then we can breach the subject of other life. But I think that the short answer is, yeah, I don't think that we're alone. I think that it would be silly to think that we're completely alone. And while I've not experienced it myself, I think that we might collectively begin experiencing it, that kind of stuff. Humans are bad enough, no doubt. No doubt. All right. Well, thank you for the question, Joy. Before we get into chat time, I did want to read this. This is actually from Jason, who asked the question earlier. And it is for the question that we got last week. Oh, well, hold on a second here. Sign-in Bloodbane, just showing support. Keep the great shows coming. Thank you very much for the donation. It's very appreciated. That stuff goes directly to us, helps us keep this train moving. I'm glad that you enjoy the content and really appreciate the support. Thank you. We will keep it up. Okay, so this is from Jason, and this is advice for Salty Cupcake, which was the question that we got last week. It was from the New Zealand D&D-er who was asking questions about 5e and the app and such. D&D Beyond app, rather. So this is from Jason. I don't have a slate for this, but I'll just read it. Good day, Chaz. Good day. See? That's fun. Long-time listener, first-time responder. I'm really jealous, by the way, of like a lot of like Aussie and British slang. I hear it on Love Island and stuff. Just a piece of just a piece of advice for Salty Cupcake, the fellow Kiwi who reached out regarding finding D&D games / support in our country. New Zealand may seem as if we're behind the times, but it's more an aspect of our small population spread across 3 islands. We've got an equivalent proportion of role players as anywhere else, but we're spread out far thinner than the US or Europe. But they should definitely check the following. There's a number of Facebook groups with Discord that are D&D / RPG communities in New Zealand / Aotearoa. I hope I didn't butcher that. Reaching out there for a local game or an online game was how I got back into the hobby after a 12-year hiatus. FLGS, which is a friendly local gaming store, may be an unfamiliar term depending on Cupcake's exposure to the gaming scene. So to break it down, they should check out their local game/hobby store. They should have an open gaming league. My local ran an open West Marches campaign until COVID ruined it for everybody. They may even have a contact for a group with a place open, and well-established stores will also run Adventures League games weekly. Obviously, depending on Cupcake's location, the ability to find a store may be an issue, so the next place to check out would be a regional wargaming board game/hobby groups and university hobby groups. I just thought providing a bit of help to a fellow Kiwi going through a similar issue that I went through 4 years ago would be a good reason to drop a line and finally send some appreciation your way. Love the easygoing, mellow vibe you've struck on the podcast stream, and it stands out against the clutter of either OTT energy/rage or dry, raw streams I listen to. Just provides a great table-focused balance as a breath of fresh air. It sets me up for the work week as I listen to on my Monday morning commute. Well, thank you, Jason. I'm appreciative to hear that. I'm glad that you enjoy the content, and I'm sure that Salty Cupcake is appreciative of that information as someone that's a fellow Kiwi. And oh wow, thank you very much, Ruby, for the donation. It's much appreciated. A cool donation and a cool a cool samurai doggo guy from Ruby. Thank you. Do you know it's illegal to laugh loudly in Hawaii? You're only allowed aloha. Thanks, Justin. How's it going, pal? How are newbies to D&D treated when they're playing games with veterans? I'd say for the most part, people are chill. You know, see that smooth transition into chat. I think most vets are pretty cool about it. I am. It's exciting when someone is new that's coming into it, because I saw actually a post the other day that I thought was funny. It was somebody that works in a game store. They work at like an FLGS, and there was a group that came in of kids, like teenagers, and it was very obvious that this was like their first time getting equipment and like getting dice, and what a cool feeling to get to be a part of that and at least just get to see it, where it's like, oh man, these kids don't even know. They don't even know this path that they're about to open for themselves. Finally got to join the live. Thanks for all the content. Well, thank you, Keith. Glad that you could be here. You haven't fully confirmed the conductor, but it could be very interesting. Yeah, the superconductor thing has not been confirmed to my understanding, but it is certainly interesting. Was Gen Con discussed for this weekend? Have any of the Man Shorts crew gone to it before? Negative. Unfortunately, I was not able to get to it this year, but I may find myself getting to a con. I don't know if they're even going to have any in Jacksonville, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'd certainly participate if they did. A rules lawyer came for you right away. Oh, so the thing that I was going to share. Now, I don't know if I'm going to use this for the actual final thing, but this is what I've put together so far for the album cover. I'm pretty happy with it. I think that might be the full one. Whoa, is there a spaceship that just parked next to my house? This is what I think I'm going to use for it. I'm pretty happy with it. So I don't have a release date for it yet, but Organized Lightning, it's my third album. It's going to be at least 15, maybe 16 tracks. But that's what it looks like. So hopefully soon on that. I've got to work on it. I'm always trying to work on something and get something done. Proved himself worthy and the aliens have come for him. Oh man, wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah, I don't have dreams about that. Of just them like, you remember that movie Muppets from Space? That was the whole plot of that movie, was like Gonzo's people coming to get him. If that happened to me, I wouldn't bat an eye. If a ship landed in my backyard and then some dude that looked like me came up and knocked on the door and was like, it's time to go, I'd be like, oh, bet, let's go. I mean, I'd have to like get some stuff. Certainly would want to bring my wife with me. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me at all. Muppets from Space. Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day because there are two Muppets, I think, that are hilarious that don't get enough spotlight or recognition. One of them is Sam Eagle. I think that guy is hilarious. And then the other one, who I guess got probably a lot more recognition back in the day on the actual Muppet show, was Bobo the Bear. But he's the henchman in Muppets from Space. And what in the hell is the name of that guy? Is it Jeffrey Tambor? Yeah, Jeffrey Tambor's the villain in Muppets from Space. And then Bobo the Bear is his henchman. It's hilarious. There's a part where he's eating like a marshmallow sandwich, and he's got marshmallows all over his fingers. So funny. You love the Man Shorts Writing Edition because it touched me personally because it's hard to get published. Heck yeah. Well, it's hard to do anything. It's hard to just survive. But if you're trying to like put something out there for people, it's a bunch of hoops to jump through. You got to really want to do it. Too many isekai are just excuses for harem plots. You know, to be fair, too many anime in general are just excuses for harem plots. Would you be spitting lyrics while being beamed up? Maybe. Cannot remember all the names. Oh, dude, I know all the Muppets. The Muppets are awesome, dude. Fozzie Bear, Rolf the dog. Come on. You gotta love the Muppets. Why are there so many? Beaker, Animal, Gonzo are the favorites. Yeah, Animal's cool. There's this girl on Love Island this season that reminds me of Joyce. I'm pretty sure. No, it's not Joyce. It's Janice. Janice the Muppet. She is in Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. She's the guitarist, I think. And there's this girl on Love Island that reminds me of her a lot. D&D Legally Different Enough Muppet Edition. Maybe we could just straight up do Muppets or puppets. That would be kind of a nightmare, I bet. Pigs in Space. Waka waka waka. Have you seen Ren? Ren. What would Luffy from One Piece's class and alignment be if you could build him in a campaign? Well, I feel if Justin's still here, he'll be what he'll tell you. But I feel like he would be chaotic good. And Monk seems easiest, but there might actually be a bit of Bard in Luffy. Just in his general inspiration to the people around him. You know, that's the thing about a guy like Luffy, is that it's not just that he's great, it's that he makes the people around him better. That's what great athletes do. You know, a guy like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, they inspire people around them to try harder and do better. So just having them on the court or just having them involved is better for everyone involved. So in that sense, he's a little bit of Bardish, but probably mechanically speaking, he's going to be a monk. He does indeed bring people together. Turning into the grumpy old men and understanding them better. Yeah, for sure. Every day it's just like, oh man, remember that thing? I'll say a thing and people will be like, that was 15 years ago. And then I'm just like, what? How does that happen? You think Muppet Treasure Island soundtrack is an excellent background music for a C session? Probably. I recommend highly any music produced and made by or for the Muppets. Okay. Man, I can't believe we're already here at the end, team. We're already over an hour. So we got to start winding it down. I would like to again thank our sponsor first this evening. Remember, World Anvil, they're sponsoring today's episode. You can go to worldanvil.com and use the promo code MANSHORTS to get 40% off any of the annual memberships. As a reminder, the email for this podcast is bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice@gmail.com if that helps you remember it. The merch is available at manshorts.com, and you can also contribute to what I'm doing musically directly at PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, Yazik, Yahzick. I will be back next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Man Shorts YouTube channel. Please like, comment, rate on your respective platforms, subscribe, share with your friends. If you've got a friend that's looking for a D&D podcast, well, you know of one. Send them this way. Appreciate all of the contributions from everybody. Appreciate you just showing up and hanging out. I hope that everybody has a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to seeing everybody next time. Have a good one.